bread baked fresh every other day. Pancakes, grits, and STP. If she don't smile, your gas is free. Krystals Motortown Cafe. Stop on by and she'll say hey. Stop on by and she'll say hey. Stop on by and she'll say hey.
Those are my casabas.
Welcome to the award-winning Krystals Motortown Cafe. I'm Joanne Korchenska, really happy to be here. I'm a writer, a storyteller, and a host of 2 radio shows, blues music radio shows at WHFR called Highway 61. We are 89.3 on your FM dial, and you can listen to us internationally at WHFR.FM online. WHFR always supports local music, and Highway 61, my blues show, is no exception. I've had the pleasure of producing several albums for our station on the Venture record label, featuring all local blues artists. The first one came out in '97. It was called Uncut Detroit, Live Blues in the Night. And then we went to another one, Uncut Detroit 2, that I have here. The first one is almost not available anymore. And our third one, Uncut Detroit 3, Live Studio Blues. Altogether, we have represented 23 local blues artists. Blues musicians know they always have a home on Highway 61. They can always come down and do an interview or play live. And our musical guest today is no exception. The Reverend Marc Falconberry has been down to the studios of WHFR many times, and it is my pleasure to announce that he is going to play for us now on Krystals Motortown Cafe. The Reverend Marc Falconberry.
Friday the 13th, everybody. I want you to roll them bones till the people come around here. Roll them bones till the people come around here. Roll them bones till the people come around here. We're gonna have a good time. I want you to roll them bones till the women come around here. Roll them bones till the women come around here. Roll them bones till the women come around here. We're gonna have a good time. I want you to roll them bones till the men's come around here. Roll them bones till the men's come around here. Roll them bones till the men's come around here. At Krystals. We gonna have a good time, oh yeah. Thank you.
Take that walk.
Come on over next to me, Mark. Well, I do understand you started out singing in church, and I could hear it in that last number, our first and last number, and a cappella, and it takes a real talented person to pull that one off. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about your beginning. You grew up on the west side of Detroit?
Yeah. When I was real little, I lived here, then I went to California, and I went back because my mother had this fetish. I wanted to go to California. You know, so we went there 5 times. Five times, got broke and moved back. But yeah, then she got me in the church and, you know, thought I should be in the choir because it would, you know, keep you out of trouble like usual. So I started singing before I ever played guitar because a lot of people got into the guitar thing in my kind of genre, age group. Got into the guitar thing. I got into singing first. So, you know, they say, do this alto part, try this and that. So the singing was a natural thing to me. It was fun to do. And it was a way to get grades in school that you could get an A out of something for showing up, you know, to balance out the rest of them that weren't so hot. Yeah. So that's how I started.
And then you went to guitar. And you were pretty young, 14 or 15?
Yeah, 14.
14?
Yeah. I was a shy kid, and I had a good friend who's passed away now who wanted to bring me out of the shell. And he brought me maybe too far out. But he wanted to, you know, have a pal to hang around with, and the way to do that was get into play productions, you know, try to, you know, school and try to get girls and the usual. So he kind of got me into that sort of thing. and it sounded like it'd be fun to start up a band. So that was the idea, and we figured, well, if we wrote some things and sang, it would be better if we played than trying to get a huge band where you had to get other guys to play and you sang. So we said, well, we'll try and do everything and keep it real small, and so we just, practiced like 10 hours a day for 7 years in the basement. I think we came out after about 3 years and decided we'd try to play at some parties, and then it started snowballing from there. People just started asking to do things.
And you did play quite a bit. Didn't you start playing for like high school dances and things? Were you involved in something like that?
Yeah, but mainly we were drummed out of it because we were doing blues and things like that, and they didn't want to hear it.
Ah, okay.
They wanted. We went to things where there was barely a Mexican person. We were pretty much white, everything. So the music would have to go geared toward the ventures and those kind of like instrumental bands and surf bands that was big then, and they didn't want to hear what we were doing, so we had to get out of the high school thing and go into the VFW or Eagles place where they'd want any kind of entertainment at that time that they could get, that they thought would be amusing to drink to. And, and blues gets natural with that, so we, started out doing the simple things. Plus, that's all we knew how to play was very simple things, so, was able to...
You were with, either helped form or were with a lot of bands, weren't you?
Yeah.
When someone found out I was coming down to be on the show with you, they asked me to ask you about some of the names of the bands that you've been with, and they themselves were able to name quite a few. And they were all very interesting names, I might add.
Yeah, because I didn't always just do blues. I always did some blues, but I figured I'd end up like I am now. I would, so it was more fun to get into. I mean, if you were a young guy in the '60s, mid '60s like me, and you're going to play some rock, or if you're going to play.
Right.
So I had a dance called the Pink Peach Mob, which was in the '60s, which played at the Grandy Ballroom and all these places.
Right.
Yeah. Then also Richmond, Mighty Quick, Dutch Elm, and at one time I counted them up, everything that played at least a few gigs, and it got to be more than 60 bands. And then,
More than
60, as it got to be, because that's all I was doing, I was pretty much a bum.
Now, the Dutch Elm, that's the name that I read in a little bit of information, that a poster from the Dutch Elm group is actually in the Detroit section of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I went down there just to look at the place when it opened.
Yes.
And, the woman I was with, there you are, look at that. What are you talking about? Detroit music section. So then I've heard that they've added when they do we played with Janis Joplin at the Grandy, and it was like Big Brother and Holding Company. So that was in the Pink Peach House. So that's been added down there too. But I was a paying guest like everybody else, But there were statues of Iggy and Ted Nugent there and all that, so which guys I knew, So it was amazing to see statues and busts of them. I would have never thought in a million years.
One of the bits of information I had here actually mentions some of the fairly well-known folks that you've appeared on stage with. And you mentioned Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
And there were others like Savoy Brown, Dr. John, Bob Seger.
Yeah.
Can you add anything? I'm looking at the whole list. I'm just wondering how much you know of this list.
Well, most of it. Or if not, well, probably more than what's on it. You got to condense things. But yeah, I mean, there's a story behind every name. There's a little story that would take hours to tell. But most of the time when that was done, it was done in the '60s when most of those artists were barely above what us local guys were doing as far as popularity, and the business was very small at that time, I think, and it was kind of a family thing that you shared the bill with someone then, and then later became your opening for them.
But it was really cool to be on the...
Hey, everybody!
Mad Dog.
Hey, this is Joanne Krasinska.
Well,
Reverend Mark.
Mad Dog, I've always wanted to be on a show with you.
And don't forget Reverend Mark back there. Good sound stuff, Reverend. You look as good as you sound. I gotta tell you that. And they sound damn good, too.
Oh, I thank you. And
I think I'm in love. That radio voice of yours just melts my heart like butter, darling.
Thank you. And you're looking really good, too.
Thank you. I work behind the scenes on Krystals Motortown Cafe. I mean, really, behind the scenes. I might have welded somebody's car to a post. You have to check on your way out. And you know what? I have a message this time. It's honest to God for real message.
Really?
Yeah. This show is dedicated to our viewers in Norway, Paris, Maine.
Where is this?
In Maine, you know, there's just 2 towns in Maine called Norway, and the other one's called Paris.
All right.
And they get our show there and watch it. I think it's a kind of a bend in the ozone or something.
Okay.
Either that or somebody does a lot of work and sends them tapes and, you know, doesn't get much thanks for it.
Yes.
Something like that. Well, that'd actually be Kathy McGettigan. Yeah, we ought to give her a round of applause. Right again, yeah. So, you know, I don't want to interrupt for too long, so I do want to hear some more music, Mark. Maybe I ought to start moving over there while I'm yammering.
I'd love hearing more music.
Yeah, a little more music, yeah.
While he's setting up, I just want to hear more about the parallel universe that you're in, because I always understood a parallel universe was very much like your own universe, but yours seems to be quite different. I'd like to know more about it.
See, actually, you're in the parallel universe.
Okay.
But to you, in my universe, everything is left-handed.
Okay.
Most of the people are left-handed.
All
They
right.
think it's their right hand, though.
They think that.
Yep.
Okay. You're not a mirror image of us, are you?
No, and
No.
the politics are completely different, too.
What are those politics?
Well, there are no powerful people. Nobody has any monetary power. Money is like a curse. You have to give it away when you get it.
Yeah.
So if they take, you know, things are quite a bit different. They have no Federal Reserve System either. They have this big bank that gives away money.
Really?
Yeah.
It sounds
I got to
really
get out of
cool.
here. We got to let Mark play.
Is it time for Mark to play? It was nice talking to you.
I love you, darling. Hey, everybody listen to that WHFR. Go ahead, yeah.
Listen here, mister, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't want no more money, but I need trouble I got to do. I come from the Motor City, and that's where I plan to stay. Ain't trying to get rich quick, but I'm gonna live from day to day. Why don't you give me a Greek hot dog and some chili too? That's where I was born. I come from the Motor City, and that's where I plan to stay. Ain't trying to get rich quick, but I'm gonna live from day to day. Yes, I come from the Motor City. I was raised up in the Motor City. I ain't in trouble, I run to the Motor City people. I probably die in this Motor City, I bet you. I'm trying to get rich quick, but I'm gonna live from day to day. Share.
I mentioned earlier that I'm a storyteller, and I do tell stories to groups of all ages. I love to listen to stories, and I love to tell them. And one of the things I really like about storytelling is when you listen to a story, all of the action takes place up in your imagination. And I think in general, a lot of folks in America have undernourished imaginations, and that's why I think storytelling is a good thing. Sometimes I'm asked if a story I tell is true. And I don't know, what is truth anyway? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Do you stretch the truth a little bit? This is a story called Truth. Once there was a man who had everything you would think a man would want. He had a loving wife, a wonderful family, a beautiful home, neighbors that he loved, and a craft for which he was justly famous. And yet this man was not satisfied, for deep down inside, he wanted to learn, he yearned to know the real meaning of truth. And one day he said goodbye to all that he possessed, and he set out on the road, a beggar after truth. And he traveled and traveled. He traveled along the rocky shores. He traveled along the barren deserts and the lush green meadows, and he traveled for a very long time, and one day he found himself at the foot of a mountain. And he knew that if he tried to climb that mountain, he would find truth. And so he climbed the mountain, and there he found her, for truth was a woman. And she stood at the entrance to a cave. She was a very old woman, so old that her skin was stretched across her bones like dried parchment, and her hair hung lank around her bony shoulders. She had but one tooth left in her mouth. But when she opened her mouth to speak, he knew that he had indeed found truth, for her voice was pure and lyrical. And he asked if he might study with her to learn the real meaning of truth. And she allowed him to come into the cave and to study with her for a year and a day. And when his time was up, and he was again standing in front of that cave, he turned to her and said, "Oh, my lady Truth, you have taught me so much. Is there anything I can do for you?" And Truth thought, and she turned her old head, and finally she pointed a bony finger and said, "Yes, when you speak of me, tell everyone that I am young and beautiful." And that's truth. Being the host of my Highway 61 show has given me so much pleasure. I've had this show for 10 years now, and I love playing all types of blues. I play anything I think fits into the blues. I love the stories in the blues. You know, blues is the music, I think, of the people. Tells the stories of everyday life, and it can be a whole lot of fun, too. It's not all sad. And it really is my pleasure getting to know people like the Reverend Marc Falconberry. And by the way, that title is honorary. He isn't ordained, but he has been preaching the blues a long time, and I know all of you here at Krystals Motortown Cafe certainly have appreciated the music that he's been playing so far. He has an album out too, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that. It has kind of a cute title. It's called Irreverent Blues. Yes, that's it. And it's almost all original material. And truly, it's been my pleasure knowing Marc, the Reverend. He's been really down playing on my show a couple of times, and I think we're going to be able to listen to him play again just for us. Are you ready, Marc, to play some music for us?
As always.
All right. The Reverend Marc Falconberry again on Krystals Motortown Cafe.
This place I worked during the day, which will remain unmentioned, it's not important, but there was this girl worked there, and it just used to build every time I'd see her, you know. I started feeling 22 again. And it occurred to me that all the songs that I wrote that I haven't done anything with a girl's name, so she's gone now. She got fired. She'll never hear it. I wrote it for her, and maybe someday, you know, we'll see each other again.
Hair shine just like gold. Bet you can write me a story, one ain't never been told. One ain't never been told. My leg gets a shaking, my leg gets a shaking whenever you pass by. Whenever you pass by, I'd like to sample your sweet stuff. I cannot tell a lie. I cannot tell a lie. Shine just like gold. I bet you can write me a story, one ain't never been told. Good morning, Miss Meredith. Good morning, Miss Meredith. Where you going so fast? Where you going so fast? Bet you can write me a story. Strike me a pose, honey. Yes, just like that. One you know is gonna last. Good morning, Miss Meredith. That's all right. Chicago, rolled into Texarkana. My baby caught that old fast blue train and gone. You know she caught that old fast blue train and gone. Just because we disagree, ain't no reason she leave from home. I gotta catch her now. I hope I got time. Have mercy now. Checking it out, folks. Getting weaker every day. Chasing that woman across the USA. Listen. She might have went to Mississippi, but moved down to Alabama. She might have went to Mississippi, but moved down to Alabama. She might have rolled to Chicago, blowed into Texarkana. Cause my baby caught that old fast blue train and gone. My baby caught that old fast blue train and gone. Just because we disagree, ain't no reason she leave from home. What is time again? I gotta get some on one lonely minute to catch her. She's in El Paso, Texas, on her way to LA on that train. And if she get out there, I know she's gone for good. She might have Baywatch Men or something. But I know one thing. If I want to catch her, I better step it up about half a beat.